Your president should do this.
Hello and welcome to Arise Africa, coming to you from a channel of champions, ACBN. And of course, I'm Adeolu bringing you to you three inciting segments as usual, bringing you news in brief about reports in Nigeria, and of course, a look at some events on our newspapers this morning. We also have a third segment for analysis and briefing about national issues, and of course a segment which creates a platform to call in and share your views regards such issues. Violet is here in the house this morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you this morning?
I'm good.
And how have you been? Have you been?
Oh, it's been splendid. Thank God.
I like that. I guess our news reports are ready.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's have it quickly.
Program I am Violet. The federal government is 100 billion naira to the nation's public universities, in line with the agreement reached with the Academic Staff Union of University ASU after last year's 7-month strike. ASU weekend raised an fund to universities in line with the agreement reached between both parties. Supervising Minister distributed letters of allocation of the fund in a meeting with Vice Chancellor of University in Abuja. He urged the Vice Chancellors to ensure that the money was mainly used for development of infrastructure in the various universities, adding that the money would be utilized before the end of 2014. It would be recorded that the federal government agreed to pay 200 billion naira for the revitalization of nation's public university in 2014 and same amount for the next 4 years until the universities were brought to a world standard. A desire to present a common agenda is overridden the initial mutual disagreement by Yoruba leaders in the southwest over the planned national conference. Indeed, several pan-Yoruba organizations and leaders, including those in the All Progressive Congress who had misgivings about the planned conference, gathered in Isara Remo home of Chief Olaniyi Ajayi in Ogun State yesterday under the leadership of the chairman of Afenifere, Chief Ruben Fasoroti, to take a common position on the Yoruba agenda at the conference. The issue of the 15 delegates that would represent the region was resolved amongst others. It was decided that each of the 6 states is to produce 2 delegates, while the remaining 3 delegates were conceded to the Yoruba leaders to decide. Also in attendance were Oyo State Governor Abiola Ajimobi, former Ekiti State Governor and interim Deputy National Chairman, Southwest of the APC, Chief Niyi Adebayo, Mr. Ayo Afolabi, ARG Chairman, Wale Oshun, and some other close associates of the former Lagos State Governor Bola Tinubu, who had opposed the conference. Moving on, Governor Babatunde Fashola of Lagos State is assented to a bill prohibiting smoking in schools, hotels, and other public places in the state. Fashola's assent followed the passage of the bill by the State House of Assembly on January 20, 2014. The law prescribes between 1 month to 3 months imprisonment or a fine of between 10,000 to 15,000 naira for offending smokers. Any persons who repeatedly violate the law risks 6 months imprisonment or a fine of 50,000 naira or both. The law also requires owners and those in charge of public places and other no-smoking areas to put up signs prohibiting the practice on their property and stop people from smoking around their premises. Violators of the provision of the law are liable or convicted to fine of 100,000 naira or 6 months imprisonment or both. In his remarks, Fashola says the new law spoke at the commitment of the state government to the promotion of public health and public safety. The Edo State House of Assembly has adopted a resolution urging relevant government agency to, as a matter of urgency, move into communities in Ozala where rainstorm wreaked havoc at the weekend with a view to ameliorating their plight. The adoption has, however, promised to provide aid and relief as soon as possible.
About 150 houses in those that are here. If you watch out, if you watch outside now, the place is eroded with breeze all over. Some petty works over houses were pulled off, the roof removed.
But beyond relief materials, also, we also insisted that the Ministry of Environment, both and the Ministry of Orientation, the Orientation Agency, should, as a matter of fact, go on public enlightenment program, because truly climate change is real. If you look at the rain period that we now see, it's completely opposite to what we are used to.
The relevant directors, they've already gone to do on the spot assessment, so as to be able to know how to put forward to government the kind of help those people will need.
And that's it on our news segment of this program. Rise Africa will be going on a short break. When we come back, we move straight to our next segment of the program with Adeolu. All right, glad to have you back on the program. Talking about the newspaper review being anchored by Adeolu Balogun. Glad to have you back.
Yes, but we're doing this together this morning.
Definitely,
Thanks for
you
that
are
news.
the lead anchor.
Yeah, sure. Let's take a look at what the papers are saying with regards to some of these issues this morning. As usual, we have a handful of these papers this morning, taking headlines from the like of the Punch newspaper, the Vanguard, the Guardian newspaper, and don't forget we also have some wonderful updates for our sport lovers out there. So I guess I should start with headlines from the Punch newspaper.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a major headline here. Boko Haram better armed than soldiers. That's an allegation. A report coming from the Borno State governor. It's on page 2 this morning. Well, this one says Ige massacre. Death toll now 146. That's still in Borno State. It's on page 2 this morning. Reps summon Jega. Others over 1 billion naira ballot papers. Turn to page 13 for more on that. United States wants federal government to establish election offenses tribunal. That's on page 9. I was responsible for Amechi's 2007 rules. That's coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He said a few things yesterday while commissioning a few places at in River State yesterday. And of course, you can see an image there showing him harvesting banana at the banana plantation in Tai, River State yesterday. Turn to page 8 to read more about that. AMCON to pay 1.6 trillion naira interest on 4 trillion naira debt. That's on page 27. God will forgive me for robbery. That's for robbery and fraud. That's a statement coming from a pastor. Violet. Thou shalt not judge. But I guess you have a few things to say with regards to that. A pastor was caught stealing, and for some armed robbery cases taking place in the southwestern Nigeria for a
according
few
to
days
you, I would like
now.
to say I keep my lips sealed for now.
Well, let's just take some headlines from some other papers.
Okay, then moving straight to the Guardian newspaper this morning. Yoruba leaders take common position and confab. OK section, power devolution and resource control, partial immunity, regional police. Still talking about Tinubu's men presenting stuffs at the meeting. Abuja Indigene Tax Minister on delegates. It's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. We are in state of war. This is coming from Borno Governor Shetima. It's on page 2. Reps panel alleges 1.15 billion naira scam over printing of ballot papers. It's on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Mark orders seek better deal for women. It's on page 5. Court awards 2.5 million naira against police over rights abuse. It's on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. National Conference splits Igbo elites cross river to ask for compensation over Bakassi resource control and others. The story continues on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Just get the paper and read more updates as we move straight to our next paper with Adeolu.
Yeah, coming from the Vanguard this morning, federal government disburses 200 billion naira to public universities. You heard that on our news this morning. And the Vanguard presents its angle to that story on page 15 of today's edition. AMCON to pay 1 trillion naira debt in October on page 8. Borno massacre, Boko Haram ideology devilish. That's coming from Buhari. Death toll rises to 121. That's another figure here. Thousands displaced. Military plans air-land raid of Boko Haram abodes. Northern governors JNI condemn latest attacks. Turn to page 5 to read more about that. This one says a pool of debt. Residents scooping diesel from a vandalized pipeline at Ijegun Imore in Oreade local council development area in Lagos yesterday. I recall that was a place that actually had this pipeline explosion a few years back, and these guys are back there scooping fuel. It's quite a danger to say. Turn to page 4 to read more about that report. It's a special one here. Ex-banker hangs self after killing wife. That's on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's take a look at what some other papers have to say. Violet, over to you.
Okay, then moving straight to the Daily Sun newspaper, talking about the 2015 updates. Jonathan declares in April may appoint Wali as campaign director. It's on page 10 of the Daily Sun newspaper this morning. We can't defeat Boko Haram, laments Governor Shetima of Borno State is lamenting there. It says, we can't defeat Boko Haram. We will intensify action on SEC. This is still coming from the governor of Borno State. It's on pages 5 and 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Taking a close look at the front page of the Daily Sun, our picture showing the Sun Nigerian Hero of the Year. It says he dared raging inferno to save 16-month-old baby. That's quite a good development there. It's on page 5 of the Daily Sun newspaper this morning. Obasanjo opens up on Amechi. It's on page 4 of the Daily Sun newspaper this morning, and that's just a few headlines on the front page as we move straight to the next paper. Adeolu, what do you have on the Nation?
Well, the Nation brings some other headlines this morning. Light up in public and pay 10,000 naira or go to jail for 3 months. That's to say, smoke in public and face jail time.
I guess it's a good development coming from Lagos State, if you would ask me.
Yes. A lot of people have actually embraced that, but I tell you something, there are still more comments and reactions coming towards that.
Definitely.
Of course, the latter part of the program will prove to us more about that. That's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper this morning. Broadcast icon Oyatogun dies at 78. Well, I recall that guy was a sport veteran for Star FM. It's on page 78 this morning. May he so rest in peace. Again, update. Oyo Omishori gets February 21 dates. That's on page 8. Boko Haram update also. Nigeria at war, says governor. Military deploys more troops. Turn to page 2 to read more about that. Ex-ministers ordered to declare assets. That's on page 59 of the Nation newspaper. Varsities get more letters for $200 billion fund. Naira fund rather. That's on page 7. Minister says no cash crunch for Eagles. That's on sports. Turn to page 24 to read more about that. And slightly on business here. Oil price above $109 per barrel. Turn to page 4 to read more about that. $20 billion oil cash. Ezekwesili disagrees with Okonjo-Iweala. That's on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. And you can see an image there showing Nigerian British actor Chiwetel Ejiofor as he poses with the award for a leading actor, for a leading role for his work on the film 12 Years a Slave at the BAFTA British Academy Film Awards at the Royal Opera House in London at the weekend. Well, some other guys were able to actually take home some awards there, talking about Matthew McConaughey, and of course this is one of my favorites, Jennifer Lawrence. A few people won awards on that event. Just turn to pages 7 and 9 to read more about how that went down. That's really about that on these conventional headlines. It's now time to look at what we have for you in the world of sports. Vale, what do you have there in sports?
All right, moving straight to the world of sports with the Complete Sport newspaper this morning and talking about the Etihad updates. Etihad showdown. Pellegrini lines out his star against Barcelona without fear. It's on page 4 of the Complete Sport newspaper. And talking about the Arsene Wenger's verdicts, Etihad shut down his mother of all battles. It's also on page 4. And still on that, and this is coming from the former Super Eagles player. I guess Emmanuel Amunike happens to be my favorite then, Adeolu, back in the days. His verdict here says it will be a 50-50 battle. It's on page 4. And also talking about Yaya Toure's predictors, they expect a thriller at Etihad. It's on page 15. Then Bayern lose another star for Arsenal clash. It's on page 5. Mexico friendly to decide Eagles World Cup squad, says assistant coach Daniel Amokachi is playing his role. It's on page 4. Agbim joins Gombe. It's on page 5. Amel will be wanted in China. It's on page 2. Musa's call for CSKA. It's on page 5. Then Yobo is first-class quality. Norwich City Chief Executive McNally loves Yobo signing. It's on page 5 of the Complete Sport newspaper. And lastly, on the front page, we're talking about the updates match being played between Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. It won't be a stroll at the Emirates. Bayern Munich expects Arsenal to be tough. It's on page 4 of the Complete Sport newspaper this morning. As we move straight to our next sporting paper with Adeolu Balogun.
Munich being your favorite back in the days, talking about the World Cup in '94 and so on.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting to know you actually used to watch football. I don't know about
definitely. Now. Of course, I'm a football fan.
Let's take headlines from Sporting Life newspaper. Drug tests for Mikel Emenike and others. FIFA doctors to carry out random sampling on Eagles stars. Players to be tested at least once before opening ceremony. That's on page 15 of the Sporting Life newspaper. Stadium damage in Brazil. FIFA may relocate Nigeria and Bosnia game. That's on page 15. 2014 World Cup still here. No cash crunch for Eagles. That's coming from Minister. Mexico warm up to decide World Cup squad. Turn to page 15 for more on that. And of course, you can see the faces of Iniesta, Lionel Messi, Dzeko coming from Man City, even Toure and some other people here talking about tonight's match between Manchester City and Barcelona coming down from Spain to the Etihad Stadium in England. That's regards to the Champions League cracker. Fabregas fears City's stars. Turn to page 7 to see more of these faces and some analysis with regards to tonight's match. I pray Man City beats Barca. That's coming from striker Balotelli. Well, that guy now plays for AC Milan and he used to be in Manchester City despite his controversies. Turn to page 16 to read more about that. Pellegrini says we'll attack Barca. That's on page 7. Richest clubs, Real Madrid still number 1. I'm sure you'd love to see the list of who comes second, third, and fourth in that. I'm sure Arsenal is still in first 10, and also with the likes of Manchester United, who dropped to 4th position, and of course Barcelona and some other very top clubs in the world. Turn to page 16 to read more about that. Ibrahimovic says PSG ready for Leverkusen. That's on page 7. It's almost all about Champions League on this front page this morning. Where is the cracker? That's taking you down to tomorrow's match between Arsenal and Bayern Munich. Arsenal can shock Bayern. And of course, you can guess who says that. That's on page 7 of the paper this morning. Hipia says Biya targets PSG upset. That's on page 7. There are some other wonderful stories you'd love to read. Get the paper, flip through these papers, and of course, get some exciting sporting updates. And that's where we draw the curtains of today's edition of the paper review segment on your wonderful Arise Africa. It's wonderful having you. Don't forget, we have a third segment which actually gives you a platform to express yourselves, share your views and your reactions with regards to national issues. We shall be looking at the recently signed smokers bill in Lagos by Babatunde Fashola. What does the law say about it? What do you say about it? Is it really embraceable? Is it really good for a democratic situation, a democratic setting? And of course, some other views religiously and some other things you feel you want to see. Just hit the lines. After this break, we'll be right back with People's Parliament. Please stay with us.